not a lot of people in the Overwatch community might know who you are. So would you please introduce yourself to the audience, as well as kind of tell us how you got here in this exact moment in esports?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Andrey Yanyuk. I'm known as Reynad in the esports space. Started as a Hearthstone professional player. I made an esports franchise called Tempo Storm, and now we have 2 teams in Overwatch, a North American and an Australian team. A lot of our Australian players here are actually, in the World Championship this time, and that's basically where I come from. I just started as a pro player, got team offers, decided to make a team rather than joining one, and now I'm here.
Awesome. So I actually want to talk about kind of you signing 2 separate Overwatch teams. Obviously, Overwatch is a really young game. Some organizations only have 1, maybe even none if you're talking about TSM and CLG, but you guys obviously have 2. Was this approach more so like trying to bet on the investment that Overwatch can provide, or is it more so like, hey, the opportunity came up, why not?
Overwatch is a new game, so as far as the traditional revenue streams like sponsorship dollars, it's not really going to be generating any of those for any teams for a long time to come, unless you have like Seagull or somebody with like numbers that can already be sold in the existing way in other games. The reason I did want to get in Overwatch early, despite it not really being like having financial return in the short term, is just to learn about the scene. Like, you can't really just go into a space and like throw a paycheck at the highest ranked players and assume that you're going to do well. It's just not how esports works. And I basically started by taking the best free agents from the 2 best freely available teams, just to get into it and see what happened, like learn about the players, learn about the roles, like how different personalities mesh, the structure of the game and the characteristics that make a good player. So I did it as a learning experience, and I've learned a ton since signing the 2 teams, and we'll definitely be making a lot of changes in the near future, and I'm just really excited to see where it's going, because I feel like we got a really good understanding of how the scene operates at a ground level now.
Yeah, so one of the biggest announcements come out this weekend, obviously, was the announcement of the 2017 Overwatch League. Now, we didn't get a lot in the opening announcements, and apparently neither did the owners. But the big thing was that there's going to be a combine for testing out individual players, as well as kind of developing regional teams, kind of the way that traditional NFL teams or MLB teams kind of do it. This is like more of a structure that we haven't really seen in esports before. Do you feel like this structure meshes, or do you feel like there are inherent issues between what we're trying to reconcile?
I wouldn't say that any of the things Blizzard proposed are overtly bad. I think overall it's an incredibly positive direction. We all knew that because the developer owns the game, esports would always have to be, like, the developer would have to be a core part of any established sports league that ever happened. So, I think Blizzard has a really smart team behind them. They're taking a really good approach to it. It's just there are certain things that I feel like were included to make it an easier sell to traditional sports people that don't really ring true in esports. So I think the combine, which you mentioned, in a traditional sport, if you have a combine, somebody can run faster than everyone else. Like, that is a tangible reason to sign that player. That will translate into results in some capacity. In a game like Overwatch, or just like almost any video game, watching somebody shoot bots or whatever, like, measurements they're using of skill, I don't think it'll really show like who a better player is in any way, but it is something that feels like it's kind of being ported from traditional sports that doesn't exactly fit, but it's not like a bad thing, right? It's not going to hurt the league or anything. It's just like, I feel like it was included to make it more relatable to the non-esports people that are parts of traditional sports franchises that they want in on this league. Another thing was the cities too, right? Cities, I think, are kind of in that same category.
Yeah, so branching off of that, do you feel like this kind of desire to reach out to the more traditional spam fans comes from larger organizations like the 76ers buying in, as well as kind of different parts of the Golden State Warriors and stuff like that, as well as PSG now having an esports team in Europe? Do you feel like there's any pressure from those professional teams entering the scene to like force this into a structure they're more familiar with?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it forcing. Everyone in and out of esports is definitely excited about the scene, and I think bringing in people that have had success in traditional sports is a big step towards improving our scene. I think it's necessary. We need to work with those people. We need to learn from them. We need to guide them. But the people that also have deep roots in esports that have been around for a long time are also necessary, because the skill set for like making a good roster and like a stable ecosystem is just so different from traditional sports that I think you really need to bring like both sides to the table and get them working together. So overall, I think it's good that we have traditional sports teams coming in. It's just like I don't think they can do it alone, and I don't think we can do it alone either way to make a successful true sports league.
Yeah. So specifically looking at Overwatch, right now Overwatch is competing with what we call like the big three titles, which are League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and the third one could either be a toss-up between like Dota or Hearthstone, depending on which side of the coin you're on. What does Overwatch have working for it to make it kind of have the longevity of these rest of these games and the popularity?
It's one of the most talented teams at Blizzard. It has constant content update cycles. The metrics are absurd. The amount of players it hit so quickly after release, it's just an incredibly talented team that made an incredible game, maybe the best game released in the last decade, and they definitely had esports in mind along every step of the way. So, all the ingredients are there for making it a good esport. It's a great competitive title. There's a massive skill ceiling. There's the team aspects. You're balancing personalities. There's a lot of opportunity for all-star plays, and you're creating storylines in the esports content that we'll be making. So, yeah, overall, I think all the ingredients are there. It's just a matter of can Blizzard and the esports team owners and the sports team owners all come together and use those ingredients in a way that's just good for the scene.
Yeah, so that's actually kind of piggybacking off of my next question, which would be, stepping away from Overwatch as a whole, let's kind of take a look at what Blizzard can really do. So obviously there are two separate sides of the balance between esports, where the players and then the owners as well as the organizations. Do you feel like there's a way for Blizzard to kind of give both sides what they want, give players more representation, while also making sure that teams have an active voice, and then also in case of the developers have proprietary ownership of the game? Do you feel there's a way to kind of make sure all those are in harmony?
Yeah, it's just about building out rule set structures, fail safes against anything sketchy happening, against the players being hurt in any way. Blizzard definitely has all these things in mind, and the team behind it has told me time and time again their number one priority is the players. They want to make sure that the players are well taken care of, that they can do this as a viable career path. They're really selling it as that, in some of the promos they've shown this weekend. So the players definitely will be better off than team owners in a lot of cases. It's just the players definitely kept in mind. It's just, in order to have players be in a good spot, make a good salary, build their brand and really be these stars that kids look up to, it needs to be sustainable. It can't just be investor money being lit on fire and everybody operating at a loss because esports is a sexy word for this month. It has to be sustainable long term, and for that to happen, the owners need to be making money, Blizzard needs to be making money, the players need to be making money. It needs to be able to sustain itself.
Yeah, so on the topic of big money and investors kind of getting into esports, obviously, with a lot of big names like Steve Aoki recently buying into Rogue, obviously you mentioned a lot of sports teams buying into the teams as well. And there's a lot of money flooding the scene. Do you think that there's a point where we're at a point where we used to put so much more money in order to make it worth it or make the system work? Or do you feel like we're actually hitting a bubble where it's kind of just about to explode and we're on maybe the tail end of it?
We're definitely in a massive bubble, but I don't think we're at the tail end of it. Bubbles have come and gone over the past 15 years in esports. People get burned when those bubbles pop, and it's a scary time. And I'm going to do everything I can to either make the bubble last as long as possible or just slowly deflate it to a realistic point where we're actually making money, But yeah, everyone investing in esports definitely has the, long-term picture in mind, and it's just going to take a lot of smart people at the table coming together with the right intentions to make it all happen in a healthy way.
So let's talk about more about the medium of which esports is kind of shown through. So obviously right now a lot of it's on Twitch, a lot of it's live streaming, and kind of related to that. We have seen some forays into kind of more of a television medium broadcast. We had E-League very recently, and this goes even as early as Halo and MLG back in those days. So do you feel like television is the medium that we want to approach? 'Cause I've heard mixed feelings where it's esports doesn't seem to translate super well to kind of the big screen.
Yeah, there's this weird dichotomy where I hope I'm using that word right. I'm gonna sound stupid if I'm not. Where a big selling point of getting into esports for these big companies, these big investors, is the fact that it's reaching millennials, people that have never owned a TV, never will, and yet at the same time, a lot of the revenue streams they're looking at are drawing parallels to traditional sports where most of that revenue is in broadcasting rights to TV. So I agree with you that our generation, the people at the heart of esports, don't really want to watch esports on TV. That's why we made things like Twitch that are just better, and they ring true to the scene. So I'm just trying to be realistic with what the revenue streams are going to be, and I just don't want these massive inflated figures coming in for people trying to buy spots and stuff because they think it's worth more than it will be realistically. So, yeah, it's I'm very much kind of like the old guard of esports camp in that I think we need to stand on our own 2 feet. We need to be building esports on the platforms that really ring true to it, like Twitch, and we need to be building out the places where esports is working rather than trying to bring it onto dying platforms. And I realize everyone knows TV's on the decline, live media is on the ascend, but like TV is still miles above anything like Twitch, to where there's still definite value for TV to experiment with esports and for us to be on TV. But long term, it's just not going to work that way. TV will plummet, and we need to make sure that we're focusing, building out esports on platforms that resonate with the industry, like Twitch. So,
yeah. So looking towards the future, what is the next big step for esports as a whole? Because obviously that's like a tough question because, I feel like it's in a good place from the visual perspective. I think there's so many other things, including like AR, VR being additional, as well as kind of like more of an integrated system where we can provide real-time stats to a lot of different players, to the audience as a whole. What do you think is the next step?
I think things like the Overwatch League are the next step. I don't think it matters what medium we're playing esports on. I don't care if it's virtual reality. I don't care if it's tablets, if it's PCs. What I care about is that it's a viable career path. If you want to be a manager, if you want to work in live production, if you want to be a pro player, those should all be like viable career paths for the people that want to work hard enough and are passionate enough about the industry. So to make that happen, it's just going to take a sustainable ecosystem. And building that out is going to require those investors with interest and forward-thinking people from traditional sports, but their expectations also have to be tempered by people with experience that know the place where esports actually is at and the rate at which it's actually growing, because a lot of those metrics are being misrepresented by a lot of people across everywhere. So yeah, I just want the people investing to have a realistic expectation of what they're investing into, and I want them to see that there's absolutely value in doing so, but I do not want to start a bidding war among billionaires that could care less about esports, where to them the difference between 1 million or 20 million is negligible, because that's how you create unhealthy bubbles, and that's how people get burned, and that's how we set ourselves back several years in the industry. So,
on a lighter topic, let's have some fun questions.
Sure.
I think those are cool. So if you could marry one of the Overwatch players, characters, I think players is definitely a position, who would it be?
I was going to use this as an opportunity to hit on Sure for a little bit, but that's fine. Take that away from me.
Say both.
Anna, definitely.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
What characteristics of Anna?
Sorry, not Anna. Shit. I don't know why I'm like zoning out right now. Mercy, obviously Mercy. No, I don't know. It's not obvious, man.
It's not obvious.
I don't know.
It's a tough question.
A lot of flavors of ice cream.
Become Mormon, man.
Become Mormon. Just all of them. All of them. They're all super. So why not? Why not be more of them? All right. So if you could implement one thing from Hearthstone into Overwatch, why would it be Knife Juggler RNG?
Oh God. Favorite thing about Overwatch is no Knife Juggler, man. Favorite thing about Overwatch, there's no Ragnaros. Heroes of the Storm's about to have that problem. No Knife Juggler. I don't know, man. Overwatch is such a good game because when you play well, man, you just get rewarded. It's just so satisfying to watch players that are the absolute best in their role kick ass and not get cheesed by random coin flips. It's a nice fresh air. But yeah, I don't know, man. If I could incorporate any card into Overwatch, is that the question?
Yeah, any feature or any interaction or anything like that.
Oh god, I love the arena thing that they're doing with 1v1s and stuff. Honestly, if I could incorporate a feature, I'd incorporate demos, like the Go TV thing that CS:GO has. It's our pro players could go back, watch their games from multiple perspectives, the other team's perspective, learn from other teams, see what they did wrong. I'm sure it's all coming, it's in the works, but I think it's a pretty important feature I like to see.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of big names enter into esports, obviously Shaq, Magic Johnson, Rick Fox. If you could have pick a notable figure from history who's kind of still alive and still has enough money to invest in esports, who would you like to see enter?
Elon Musk. Invest in Tempo, man.
Man, that's
selling space shorts in space one day. That's the dream.
Soon TM. So anyways, thank you so much for the interview. Do you have any shout outs for your fans and your sponsors?
shout out to everyone who's just a fan of Tempo, supporting the team, the players. Keep an eye out on our Overwatch guys. They're making a lot of awesome content over at TempoStorm.com, where you can also get wonderful form-fitted clothing, saving 10% using code TEMPO.
It's actually 25% this weekend.
That's right. Code TEMPO25 just this weekend. Fire sale before we go fully independent, get a brand new store up, and it'll be good.
Awesome. Obviously, good luck in the future with your Overwatch team as well as other endeavors that you want to go into. Maybe a League of Legends team in the near future. Who knows?
Yeah, Challenger next split, man.
Yeah, well,
hopefully.
Definitely. Well, good luck there, and obviously you can catch the rest of my material at GosuGamers.net. I keep on saying .com, but it's actually .net. You can follow the rest of it at GosuOverwatch, and make sure to follow me at Scribe OW with a 1 instead of an I. And yeah, thank you so much for the interview, dude.
No worries, man. Glad to be here.